Michigan Out of Doors Online is brought to you in part by Mr. Muskie Charters, offering full-service guided fishing trips for walleye, muskie, bass, and sturgeon on Lake St. Clair and the Detroit and St. Clair rivers. Booking information is online at mrmuskiecharters.com. By Tri-County Logging. Experienced in sustainable forestry practices, Tri-County Logging can help you manage your property by keeping your woods healthy and generate income. Serving southern and mid-Michigan for nearly 50 years, TriCountyLogging.com.
Hi everyone, welcome to Michigan Out of Doors. I'm Jenny Silik and we've got an exciting show lined up for you this week. Walleye fishing is heating up on the Detroit River right now, so we thought we'd bring you a story from an early March trip that we had done. You won't want to miss it. We had a blast out there on the Detroit River chasing after walleyes, and Jimmy's got some other great information in store for us this week too.
Well, that's right, Jenny. We do have a couple more things on this week's show. And if you saw the show last week, we spent a little bit of time talking about the consent decree, which is basically an agreement between the Native American tribes here in the state of Michigan and the state of Michigan about where people can fish and how they can fish here in our Great Lakes. And so we're going to kind of stay on that same theme this week, but we're going to actually look at it more from the biology side of things and really look at how Lake Huron and Lake Michigan specifically have really changed over the last couple of decades. So really good information there. We're also going to have time for a bragging board on this week's show. So lots of good stories. You stay tuned. I'm Jimmy Gretzinger. It's time for Michigan Out of Doors.
From the first spring rains to the soft summer breeze, dancing on the pine forest floor, the autumn colors catch your eyes. Here come the crystal winter skies. It's Michigan, Michigan Out of Doors.
What a beautiful day in the woods.
Someday our children all will see this is their finest legacy, the wonder and the love of Michigan. As the wind comes whispering through the trees, the sweet smell of nature's in the air. From the Great Lakes to the quiet stream, shining like a sportsman's dream, it's a love of Michigan we all share.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by Country Smokehouse, a sportsman's meat processor and Michigan destination since 1988. Offers a variety of homemade smoked meats and Michigan-made products in-store and online. The Country Smokehouse features an outdoor barbecue and bar. Details at countrysmokehouse.com. By Alta Equipment Company, providing sales, rentals, service, and parts because uptime matters. From earth moving to landscaping and light construction, Alta offers over 50 brands across 7 Michigan locations to serve you. More information online or 844-GO-2-ALTA. By Polar Craft Boats, offering riveted and welded boats for the outdoor enthusiast. Whether you're targeting fish or waterfowl, Polar Craft Boats have several models to choose from that keep you high and dry. For more information, polarcraft.com. By AnglerQuest Pontoons. AnglerQuest is a Michigan-based company building boats designed for comfort and fishing functionality. For more information, anglerquestpontoons.com.
We will be jigging in our ice fishing gear, there's no doubt about that. She's a little chilly today, but we'll see what happens. We're at Bellinger Park here today on the Detroit River. We're gonna run down by Belle Isle. They've been catching some nice fish down there, so we're gonna go down and give it a try and hopefully catch enough fish for a meal. We've got Adam Schumacher, who you guys probably seen on my duck hunting trip that we did together, Mike Martin, and Tina Lamar, some friends of mine that are from all over. So we should have a good time. We've got some good fishermen. We're gonna give it a go.
It's always fun to fish the Detroit River and to see the city from a different perspective out here on the water. Being the first week of March, it's a little earlier than normal to be out here chasing walleyes.
It is a little early here on the Detroit River, but they've been catching some really nice fish here jigging. So we want to come down and take advantage of the early bite and kind of pre-fish a little bit before I come down here in the month of April and May. So we decided to come down here and give it a go and hopefully catch enough fish for a meal so we can go have a little cook and catch after. For 5 years now, I've been chartering down here for April and May and keep my boat at a place called Sinbad's on the northern part here of the river, and we've got a great group of guys, other charter captains there, and the nice part about it is they have a great fish cleaning station and they do the cook and catch meal. They cook your fish right on the spot, right when you bring it in after we clean it, and it doesn't get any fresher than that.
Sweet. Great job, Tina. We got our first fish in the boat, eh?
Yes, we do. And no surprise.
See, I brought my own pole.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Dude, that ate it good, dude.
Sweet. First trip of the year out here, hey?
First trip, first fish.
Awesome. Great work.
We were fishing this morning just south of the Belle Isle Bridge here in Detroit, and like most days during the walleye bite, we weren't alone out here. Not many boat ramps have their docks in yet, so access is limited right now. Even so, there were 10 or 12 boats out here with us. It was a short drift down from the bridge, and just before we picked up our lines to head back up on our second drift, Mike hooked into one.
They do exist.
Thumper jig.
Nice. So how'd that one hit?
Not very hard.
No?
He just kind of came up and grabbed it, and that was it. They don't do too much when this water's cold like this. They just
Yeah.
kind of hang out on the bottom, and it's not like April or May when they're going crazy eating everything that moves.
We just run straight minnows because the water's so cold. So we just run straight minnows when it's really cold out, and probably for the first 2 weeks in April we'll run straight minnows. Then we'll switch over to rubber. Once the water temp warms up, we'll switch over to rubber and only use rubber. But the first couple of weeks we always, when it's cold out, the water's this cold, minnows seem to outproduce rubber.
All right.
The bite was a little slow on this cold, windy, overcast morning, but it seemed like we were able to connect with one fish on each short drift we made. The next time down, Adam connected with one of those Detroit River walleyes. He was gracious enough to reel in slowly so that I could put down my video camera and pick up the GoPro for some underwater footage. Captain Mark was on the net, and we had another nice-sized fish in the boat.
I make all the fish look small.
Yeah, let's see. That's a nice one, eh? Beauty.
I live in Linwood, Michigan.
Okay, yeah. So what do you think of this compared to back at home?
I like the big water. The scenery is a lot more fun.
Yeah.
You know, you're not looking at the same scenery you see all the time. A little more action around the river.
The Detroit River fishery seems to intrigue anglers from near and far. Tina Laymer lives near Lansing and enjoys getting out here whenever she has time to make the trek over. Tina's been fishing most of her life.
So Tina, how long have you been fishing?
Oh boy, probably since I was 5-6 years old. My mom and dad used to take us to Canada in a little 16-foot, 10-horse tiller boat. We did a lot of walleye fishing up there. And then I lived between Holland and Grand Haven, and my dad would take that little boat out with 2 downriggers out into Lake Michigan. We'd pick and choose our great days, and we did a ton of salmon fishing. So we did that for a long time until I, probably graduated high school, and I got out of fishing for a little while. And a few years ago, I bought myself my own boat and got back into it.
That's awesome.
So,
what do you like about it?
I just like being outside. I love to be outside, whether it's hunting or fishing. And my brother Kurt and we do a ton of fishing together. And so I think it's kind of like a family thing and friends. This year I bought a bigger boat, so it'll hold more people. So I'm excited about, to bring more people and just enjoy and have fun.
How do you know Mark?
I met Mark when he put a shout out on Facebook that he had some open seats on his boat. I think it was early July. So I took him up on his offer. Friday morning, I think, I drove down by myself and hopped on his boat with a couple other strangers. And, it was just an amazing experience. Mark is the kind of guy that, it doesn't matter, how many fish you catch, you're going to have fun with Mark. He's just a blast to spend time with. And I enjoy every time I fish with Mark.
I can vouch for that. It's always a blast hanging out with Captain Mark Penonzak. Whether it's ice fishing, duck hunting, or fishing the open water, I always have a great time with lots of laughs. It's so nice to hear stories like Tina's, a group of sportsmen and women meeting on social media and joining forces to expand their circle of friends and share their knowledge and experience in different areas of the state. That kind of camaraderie can't be beat. Mike was having fun at the bow of the boat today.
There we go. Nice one, Mike.
We're getting there,
Picking away at him.
little by little.
These guys usually fish Saginaw Bay in the winter, but didn't have much good fishing there this year at all.
The Saginaw Bay was horrible for us guys on the west side. We had at times maybe a half a mile of ice that you could go out on and try to fish. So I didn't do any ice fishing trips this year because you could walk out. So I had a hard time with that. There were other couple charter captains on the east side that were doing some trips. They could get out farther on the east side.
Do you still have your airboat?
I do still have my airboat, but even with that, I mean, you're just breaking ice. So if I broke it and then someone happened to fall in, I'd feel pretty bad about it. So I didn't really use that. I didn't even get it out. So I've been water fishing with a boat mainly all year. Haven't really quit. On the cold days, for a week we'd have some cold weather where it'd be frozen in up north and we couldn't fish. I've been down to Ohio, fished down in Ohio. We're down here today. Wherever it's open, we've been going.
And speaking of going, we moved upriver to fish next to the Rooster Tail and Sinbad's for a quick bit to see if we could find any fish there. No action to speak of, so we called it a morning.
We caught some fish this morning. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad. So we caught some nice fish, and we're going to head into Sinbad's. We're going to clean our fish and take it in for the cook and catch. There's nothing better than fresh fish for the day.
Over at the Sinbad's dock, Mike made quick work of cleaning the fish for lunch. Sinbad's is one of many restaurants across the state who participates in the Catch and Cook program. Launched in 2012, Michigan Catch and Cook allows charter boat captains and their clients to take their fresh catch to a participating restaurant to cook it up and serve it to them. The chef at Sinbad's prepared our walleye 3 ways: fried, sautéed, and Cajun. All were absolutely amazing. Today was a perfect example of why we love the outdoors. Fishing open water after a long winter, spending the day with new and old friends, laughing till it hurts, catching some Detroit River walleyes, and enjoying them for lunch. That's what it's all about here in Michigan's Out of Doors.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, what we're going to do on this week's show, similar to what we did last week, talking about the consent decree, which is basically an agreement between the Native American tribes here in the state of Michigan and the state of Michigan when it comes to fishing in our Great Lakes. And so on this week's show, we're going to look more at the biology of how these lakes have changed over the last several decades. Well, we are here today with Jim Johnson, former DNR biologist. Jim, when did you retire?
I retired in 2014 from the DNR at the Alpena Fishery Station.
Okay, before we get into talking consent decree and the Lake Michigan and Lake Huron and how they've changed, just give me a little bit of your background and kind of how'd you get involved in the fisheries, just that whole industry.
Oh yeah, I got started with Steve Swan back in Pontiac when he was a district biologist, and I saw him shocking Paint Creek, and I volunteered to work with him, and I was supposed to be a dentist at that time. And by the time I was done with Steve, 2 days later, I was heading to be a fisheries biologist.
Really?
So yeah, he really sold me on the career, and so he's kind of one of my early mentors. And
okay.
So I went to Michigan State and got a master's degree in fisheries, and of course there weren't any jobs in Michigan then, so I worked in Nebraska for 7 years and in Utah for 10. Had a lot of fun on the Green River. That was my favorite project there, and we developed special regs there and turned that into a world-class fishery. That was really fun, but I always had my sights set on the Great Lakes. And then the Alpena Fisheries Station supervisor position opened up, and I couldn't believe it. I got it.
That's good. That's good. So now, how did you get involved? I mean, last week we talked with Steve, kind of one of the attorneys for the coalition that you're a part of, and kind of walk me through what is your role on that coalition, and when did you get involved in that process?
Yeah, well, let me back up just a little bit. We are now working under a year 2000 consent decree. It was signed and sealed in 2000 and set up the fishing regime everybody's working under now. Sport fishing regulations and commercial fishing regulations are all working under the umbrella of that decree. And that decree did one thing that was really remarkable compared to in the past. It directed serious effort at trying to reduce the gillnet catch in Lake Huron and convert that catch to trap nets. So let me explain just a little bit what these two gear types are. Yeah. Gill nets are easy to fish. Anybody can fish them out of a small boat or a large boat. You can fish small amounts, or you can fish 20,000 feet a day of gill net. And gill nets look like a very transparent fence. They're designed so the fish can't see them, but it's a fence that might be 7 to 20 feet high with floats all along the top of this fence to keep the fence high, and then lead weights along the bottom. So it's stretched across the lake for maybe a mile or 2 or even 3 miles.
Wow.
and the fish can't see it. So they try to swim through this invisible net, and the mesh size is just so that it catches them as their head gets in, and they try to get back out, and they can't because their gills are caught on the mesh. Thus the name gill net. And because they're caught by the gills, the fish often suffocate. And they need their gills for respiration. And because many of the fish are dead or dying when they come on board, it's not very practical to say, hey, we have to have a bag limit or a size limit or anything on lake trout, because you can't release the catch and expect very many of them to survive. So the DNR, the state of Michigan, and the legislature all got on board and funded a $17 million effort to buy up tribal gill nets and compensate those fishermen for their gear. And anybody who wanted to fish trap nets, the DNR provided trap net boats and trap nets for them in training and got them started in trap netting.
And that was part of the 2000?
That was part of the 2000 consent decree.
Okay.
And so early in the consent decree, there was all this conversion going on, and it was really successful. So what's a trap net? A trap net is, as the name implies, it catches the fish in a trap or a pot, and it looks like a great big underwater corral. And the fish are led into this by a lead net that's designed to be seen by the fish. They see that lead and they go, I can't, and they have to go one way or the other, and the ones that turn towards the pot of the net get caught. And they're guided into this pot. You lift the net to the pot to the surface and bail them out with big dip nets, and the fish come into the boat live. There they're sorted, and the non-target catch, like lake trout, which aren't permitted for harvest, can be released alive, and the whitefish are coming in live and fresh. And they're top dollar fish because they're brought on board live, put directly on ice. And so the trap netters get a better price per pound than the gill netters do because their catch is way better in quality. The point is that gill nets, the conversion of gill nets to trap nets started to do something that none of us expected to see. Lake trout actually started spawning in Lake Huron, and for years and years the agencies have been stocking lake trout with no reproduction to speak of. And after 2000, reproduction. And modelers concluded that we had built up a large enough what we call brood stock biomass, big old lake trout with just full of eggs. And the older the lake trout, the more eggs they can produce. And we'd build up this brood stock biomass, and reproduction ensued. Part of the reason was because of the trap net conversion project. There were other reasons too, but the trap net, it wouldn't have happened without the trap net conversion project. So it's really important to build on that trap net conversion project and make sure that we maintain that investment into the future.
That's really good information. Now, when you look at Lake Huron, let's start with Lake Huron. So in 2000, they changed the consent decree a little bit. We're sitting here in 21. So how has that fishery changed in the last 20 years?
Well, the fishery has changed fundamentally in every way you can think of, all the way from the bottom of the food base to the top. And it's all because of these little zebra and quagga mussels, which invaded and became prominent in the 1990s. I saw my first one in 1989, and you know, it went on for about 10 years without any noticeable effects. And then people started to report that the lower end of the food web had collapsed. Little shrimp called diparia were suddenly disappearing everywhere. Well, diparia are the main food source for whitefish and baby lake trout. Okay. And any other fish that can eat them. They love to eat these little shrimp, and suddenly they're gone. Instead of shrimp, we have mussels. Mussels aren't easily eaten by fish. There are a few that do it, like gobies. You can almost say, thankfully, we got gobies from the Caspian Sea too, because they're a natural predator of zebra and quagga mussels. So now it's zebra mussel, quagga mussels, gobies, and then anything that'll eat gobies, which doesn't include salmon. So in Lake Huron, we've lost our Chinook fishery almost entirely. Coho salmon doing a little bit better. Steelhead, because they're more of an opportunistic feeder and they feed on everything from plankton to smelt to insects, they're doing okay. But the salmon fishery is really gone. And the whitefish fishery, as time went on, the whitefish just gradually declined. It's been a 20-year decline, and finally now the curtains seem to be drawing on the whitefish fishery. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that there's some sign of recovery soon, but
Now, when you let's swing over to the west side of the peninsula, Lake Michigan. How that seems to be, well, I shouldn't say. I'll let you answer. How is, from your standpoint as a biologist, where are we at in specifically like the salmon numbers in Lake Michigan? Is that still a pretty healthy fishery?
The salmon population has been steadily declining there, more like the whitefish have. They've been coming down stepwise, gradually for 20 years. With some peaks, and they go down again. Now, another little bump, and they go down some more. And they're getting down to the point where, there's a lot of people worried about their future. And this is because of the alewife trying to find some plankton to eat. As long as there are alewives, they're going to be salmon. And so far, the alewives are holding up. There's nobody saying that the salmon are in a crisis right now, or that they're not going to be here next year. But it's teetering precariously towards a breaking point where there just won't be enough alewives, and the salmon will do like they did in Lake Huron and take out the remaining alewives. So we're worried about that. The nice thing about lake trout is they're an insurance factor. Because they are the one fish that do well, they love to eat gobies.
Well, so I guess the challenge, I'm guessing, for the coalition is to try to divvy up, and maybe divvy up's the wrong term. You got a declining fishery, and you have the sport fishing people wanting more. You probably have the tribes wanting more. How do you come to an agreement on something like that?
Well, again, the first thing is to recognize what the resource is capable of. That is, we have to understand that the pie has gotten smaller as these zebra and quagga mussels have changed the whole food web and taken down whitefish numbers and salmon numbers. Those were mainstays of the 2000 consent decree. Now, in 2021, we're looking at lakes that are mostly lake trout with diminishing numbers of whitefish and chinooks. So we have to first, all the agencies need to recognize that the pie is smaller. Now we need a new decree. We need a new agreement that is based on the understanding that there's fewer salmon and fewer whitefish, and that our needs are different for the future. We need that, but in the meantime, I just hope that the 2000 consent decree can continue to guide our decisions and protect the gains we've made with lake trout recovery in the Great Lakes.
Thanks for joining us this week for Michigan Out of Doors. Make sure you stay tuned in upcoming weeks. Lots of springtime adventures headed your way. Of course, we'll be doing some more open water springtime fishing. We're also going to sit down with Mr. Tony LaPratte to see what we can be doing this time of year to make our deer hunting land more productive in the fall. And of course, we'll be turning our sights to turkey season.
Well, that's right, Jenny. So much good stuff happening in the spring, and it's hard to believe that the turkey season is literally only days away. And so to get you excited for that, on next week's show, we're going to do a bunch of different turkey hunts from the last few years. You won't want to miss that. It'll get you excited for the upcoming spring turkey season. Make sure if we don't see you in the woods or on the water that we see you right back here next week on your PBS station.
Michigan Out of Doors is presented by.
Do you dream of somewhere bigger than your backyard? You can get there with Greenstone. Whether you want to hunt, fish, hike, or just watch the sunset, we're ready to help you own your place in the great outdoors. To learn more, visit greenstonefcs.com.
By Greenmark Equipment. Greenmark Equipment is a John Deere dealership network in southwest Michigan and northern Indiana. Greenmark provides sales and services to farmers, commercial businesses, large property owners, and homeowners. Information about pricing and products available can be found online at greenmarkequipment.com.
Closed captioning provided by Marvo Mineral, makers of Lucky Buck, deer management products including minerals to supplement deer diets year-round to improve health and antler growth.
When I wander far away, a dream stays with me night and day. It's the road that leads to my home state. I am a Michigan man. Changing seasons paint the scene like rainbow trout in a hidden stream. The white-tailed deer in the tall pine trees. I am a Michigan man. I am a Michigan man. Ask where I'm from and I'll show you my